The silence at my family's Christmas party wasn't the peaceful kind. It was the kind that happens when 20 people stop breathing at the same time. My mother's hands were shaking. The wrapped magazine I'd just handed her felt like it weighed 100 pounds in her manicured fingers. Around us, aunts and uncles and neighbors from Newport Beach held their champagne glasses mid-air, frozen, waiting. 30 seconds earlier, my sister Blaire had been in the middle of one of her performances. You know the type. Standing there in her cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my first month's rent in New York, laughing that practiced influencer laugh, telling everyone about her latest brand deal while gesturing toward me like I was a stain on the marble floor. I mean, look at her, Blaire had said, wrinkling her perfect nose. Still breaking out at 20. Some things never change, right, Mom? My mother had smiled. Not even a guilty smile. Just smiled. That's when I reached into my bag. I brought you a Christmas gift, Mom, I said quietly. I think you should open it now, in front of everyone. The room went quiet then. Curious quiet. My father, Anthony, set down his scotch. Blaire's eyes narrowed like she was trying to figure out what game I was playing. My mother's fingers fumbled with the silver wrapping paper. I watched her face as the paper fell away, watched the exact moment she registered what she was holding. December's issue of Elle magazine. But it wasn't just any issue. My face stared back at her from the glossy cover. Professional makeup, designer clothes, hair styled by people who charge more per hour than my family spent on groceries in a month. The girl they'd called ugly. The girl they'd hidden from family photos. The girl whose acne scars they talked about like some kind of moral failing. That girl was on the cover of one of the biggest fashion magazines in the country. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her other hand and shattered on the floor. Let me tell you how I got here. Before we dive into the years of silence, the tears, and the secret I kept from everyone I loved, I want to invite you to join our community. If you believe that the truth always finds its way to the light, and that justice is a dish best served with success, please subscribe to Prime Karma Stories. We are a family of resilient women who believe in standing tall, even when the world tries to make us feel small. Tap that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss a single chapter of this journey. Newport Beach isn't just a city, it's a performance. Everyone's tan is perfect. Every lawn is manicured. Every family looks like they stepped out of a catalog. My parents fit right in. My father, Anthony, owned a luxury car dealership. My mother, Jacqueline, spent her afternoons at the country club, planning charity galas that were really just excuses to show off jewelry. And then there was Blaire. 3 years older than me, Blaire was the kind of beautiful that makes people stop mid-sentence. Long blonde hair that caught the light just right. Clear skin. The kind of smile that made adults say things like, she should be in magazines, before she'd even turned 16. By the time she was 18, she had 200,000 Instagram followers and was getting paid to post pictures of her morning smoothies. I loved her when I was little. I really did. I followed her around like a puppy. Thought she hung the moon. She let me play with her makeup sometimes, back when we were kids. Back before I turned 13 and my face became a war zone. The acne started slow. A few pimples here and there, the kind every teenager gets. But then it got worse. Cystic acne that hurt to touch, that left marks no matter what I did. I tried everything. Drugstore creams, expensive dermatologist visits my mother scheduled with this tight, embarrassed expression on her face, like my skin was something she had to manage, like a bad investment. Nothing worked. And that's when everything changed. I remember the first family photo where they positioned me in the back. I was 14. Blaire stood front and center in a white sundress, my parents on either side of her like proud peacocks. I was behind my father's shoulder, half my face hidden. The lighting's better this way, my mother had said. I believed her then. By 15, I wasn't in the photos at all. My mother stopped tagging me in Facebook posts about family dinners. When relatives came over, Blaire was paraded out like a prize. I was upstairs, door closed, pretending I had homework. Kayla's not feeling well, my mother would say. Or, "Kayla's busy with school." What she meant was, "Kayla doesn't fit the image we've built." The comments started casual, little observations that landed like punches. "Maybe if you washed your face more," my mother would say, even though I washed it 4 times a day until my skin was raw. "You know, there are treatments for that," my father offered once, like I hadn't spent years in dermatologist offices, like I wasn't trying. Blaire was the worst because she pretended to care. "It's really not that bad," she'd say, right before posting a selfie with a caption about being blessed with good genes. She'd tag my mother, never me. I stopped looking in mirrors unless I had to. Started wearing my hair down to hide my face. Wore foundation 3 shades too heavy that somehow made everything worse, but at least covered the redness. I ate lunch in the library alone because the cafeteria felt like a spotlight I couldn't escape. At 16, I stopped going to family events unless forced. Thanksgiving, I stayed in my room. The Christmas party where my mother's friends cooed over Blaire's new boyfriend, I faked a migraine. My mother didn't even try to convince me to come down. "Probably for the best," she'd said. I was 17 when I started planning my escape. Not loudly, not dramatically. I just started saving. Every birthday check from my grandmother Vivian, every odd job I could find, babysitting kids in the neighborhood, tutoring classmates in math. I opened a bank account my parents didn't know about. I didn't tell anyone. I just knew that if I stayed in that house, in that city, with those people, I would disappear completely, and I'd rather disappear on my own terms. Blaire's Instagram hit 100,000 followers 2 weeks before my 17th birthday. My mother threw her a party. Champagne, a cake with edible gold leaf, influencer friends who showed up just to be in her content. They set up a ring light in the living room. My mother kept saying my daughter the influencer like it was a medical degree. I watched from the kitchen doorway. Nobody noticed me standing there. That's when I realized something that made my chest hurt. I wasn't just the ugly daughter. I was invisible unless my ugliness was useful for comparison. When Blaire needed to look better, they'd put us side by side. When she didn't, I simply didn't exist. The brand deals started rolling in after that. Skincare companies, fashion boutiques, a local jewelry designer. Blaire would squeal and show my mother every email like they were college acceptance letters. My mother would post about it on Facebook, so proud of my beautiful girl. I had made honor roll that same semester, straight A's in AP classes. My mother said, "That's nice," without looking up from her phone. I stopped eating breakfast at home, then lunch, then most of dinner. It started practical, I told myself. I was busy. I had homework. I wasn't hungry. But really, I was testing something. Testing if they'd notice. Testing if anything about me mattered beyond the surface they'd already decided was defective. My clothes started hanging loose. I liked it at first. Felt like I was disappearing the parts of me they criticized. My face, my body, all of it just fading away. Grandmother Vivienne noticed. She showed up at the house one afternoon unannounced, took one look at me and didn't say a word, just pulled me into her car and drove me to this little French cafe she loved, ordered me a croissant and a hot chocolate and sat there until I ate it. "You are not the problem, chérie," she said quietly, her accent still thick even after 40 years in California. "They are." I wanted to believe her. But belief is hard when you're 17 and everyone in your house treats you like a before picture in someone else's transformation story. Blaire's influencer career exploded when she turned 21. A local magazine did a feature on her, Newport's It Girl. There was a 2-page spread of her on the beach, in designer dresses my parents bought her, looking like every California dream you've ever seen. The article mentioned our family exactly once. Blaire comes from a tight-knit family who've always supported her dreams. I wasn't in any of the photos, not even the family portrait they staged for the piece. That's when Blaire made her move. She told me one night, casual as anything, that she'd signed with a modeling agency. A real one, she said. In Los Angeles. She was going to be a model on top of everything else. I watched her pack for her first casting call. She was nervous, I could tell, but trying not to show it. My mother helped her pick outfits. My father drove her to LA personally. She came home 4 hours later and went straight to her room. I heard her crying through the wall. At dinner that night, nobody mentioned it, but I saw the email later, left open on her laptop. She'd been rejected. The agency said she had nice features but lacked a distinctive quality. Too commercial for editorial, too common for high fashion. She never talked about modeling again after that, just doubled down on Instagram, posting 3 times a day, every photo more filtered than the last. I was 18 when I found her crying in the bathroom one night, staring at herself in the mirror. For half a second, I thought about comforting her, thought about telling her I understood what it felt like to not be enough. But then she saw me in the doorway, and her face hardened. "What are you looking at?" she snapped. I left. 3 months later, I turned 18. Grandmother Vivian gave me a card with $500 inside and a note that said, "For your new beginning." My mother forgot it was my birthday until 2 days later. That night, I bought a one-way bus ticket to New York City. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I just packed a duffel bag with clothes, my savings account information, and one photo of my grandmother. I left while they were all asleep. Kayla was 18, alone, and walking away from everything she knew, just to survive. It's a heartbreaking choice many of us have had to make. Have you ever felt like a side character in your own family's story? Have you ever had to choose yourself when no one else would? Drop a yes in the comments if you've ever had to find your own path. Your stories of strength inspire us all, and seeing that yes tells me we're not alone in this. The bus took 42 hours. I sat in the back, headphones in, watching California disappear through the grimy window. Somewhere in Nevada, my phone started buzzing. My mother, finally noticing I was gone. I turned it off and didn't turn it back on for 3 days. New York City in January is nothing like Newport Beach. It's gray and cold and smells like garbage and exhaust and something else I couldn't name. The streets are packed with people who don't even glance at you. After 18 years of being stared at for all the wrong reasons, the anonymity felt like cold water on a burn. I found a room in Brooklyn through Craigslist. Basement apartment, technically illegal. One window that looked out at a brick wall. $400 a month. The landlord didn't ask questions when I paid cash for the first and last month. It was the size of Blaire's walk-in closet. I loved it. The first week was survival mode. I had about $3,000 total. Not enough to be stupid with. I bought a winter coat at a thrift store, learned which bodegas had the cheapest coffee, figured out the subway. I applied to every restaurant and cafe I could find. A diner in Williamsburg hired me on day 9. 6-hour shifts, 5 days a week, minimum wage plus tips. I wore my hair in a ponytail and kept my head down, and learned to carry 4 plates at once. The chef, Luis, was the first person who was nice to me without wanting anything back. "You eat today?" he'd ask during my break, already making me a sandwich. I finally turned my phone back on after 2 weeks. 63 missed calls, 40-something texts. Most from my mother, some from my father, 2 from Blaire that just said, "Seriously?" My grandmother's message was the only one I read all the way through. "I know you are safe. Call me when you are ready. Je t'aime." I called her that night from the corner payphone because my minutes were almost gone. She didn't ask me to come home. She didn't guilt me. She just asked if I was eating enough and if I had a warm coat. "Yes, Grandmère." I lied about the eating part. "Good. Stay away as long as you need to, Cherie. I will handle them." I don't know what she told my parents, but the calls stopped after that. Just weekly texts from my mother. "Hope you're well," like I was away at college, not missing from their perfect family portrait. The thing about New York is that nobody cares what you look like. I mean that in the best way possible. On the subway, I'd see every kind of person. Tattoos, piercings, scars, birthmarks, skin conditions, everything. And nobody stared. Nobody whispered. Nobody made you feel like your face was something that needed apologizing for. My skin started getting better around month 3. I wasn't doing anything different. Same drugstore face wash, but I wasn't crying myself to sleep anymore. Wasn't skipping meals to punish myself. Wasn't holding my breath every time someone looked at me, waiting for the comment, the judgment, the comparison to my sister. Stress, it turned out, had been feeding the problem all along. By summer, the cystic acne was mostly gone. I still had scars, still broke out sometimes, but my face was my face. Not a disaster, not something to hide, just a face. I started wearing less makeup, started pulling my hair back, started looking at myself in mirrors again, without that automatic flinch. I picked up a second job at a bookstore in the East Village. The owner, Margaret, was 70 and sharp as glass. She'd worked in fashion in the 60s, had stories about models and photographers and parties at the Chelsea Hotel. "You have interesting features," she told me once, matter of fact, while I was shelving poetry. "Good bone structure. You ever think about modeling?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "I'm not the modeling type," I said. She looked at me over her reading glasses. "Says who?" "Says everyone I'd ever known. Says my family. Says the mirror I'd avoided for years." But I didn't say that out loud. My grandmother visited that August, took the train up by herself, stayed in a hotel in Midtown, and met me for lunch at a cafe near Washington Square Park. She looked at me for a long time before speaking. "You look like yourself now," she said simply. I realized she was right. It happened on a Tuesday in September. I was running late for my shift at the diner, speed walking down Bedford Avenue with coffee in one hand and my bag slipping off my shoulder. The kind of late where you're already apologizing in your head. A woman stepped directly into my path. "Excuse me," she said. British accent. Designer sunglasses. Perfectly cut blazer. "Do you have a minute?" I thought she was going to ask for directions. Or money. New York had taught me to keep walking. "I'm actually really late for work," I said, trying to step around her. She moved with me. "I'm a scout for an agency. Modeling. You have a really unique look." I stopped, stared at her, waited for the punchline. "I'm serious," she said, pulling out a business card. "We're always looking for fresh faces. Editorial, commercial work. You interested?" The card said Elite Model Management. I'd heard of them. Everyone had heard of them. "I think you have the wrong person," I said. She tilted her head. "Do you not want to model? Or do you not think you can?" The question hit different than she probably meant it to. I took the card. The agency was in a building in Tribeca, with floor-to-ceiling windows and white furniture that looked like nobody was allowed to actually sit on it. I almost turned around 3 times before I made it to the elevator. They took Polaroids. No makeup, hair pulled back, just me in a white tank top against a plain wall. The photographer, a guy named James, barely looked at me while he shot. "Turn left, chin up, relax your shoulders." Good. I felt ridiculous, like a kid playing dress up. 2 weeks later, they called me back, said they wanted to sign me, said I had an editorial quality, said the scars on my face gave me character, made me interesting, made me different from every other pretty girl who walked through their door. The things my family had called ugly, they called distinctive. I signed the contract in November, started going to castings in December, got rejected from 9 out of 10, learned that modeling is mostly waiting in hallways with girls who are taller, thinner, prettier, better, learned that it's not about being beautiful, it's about being interesting, about having something the camera wants to catch. I booked my first real job in January. Lookbook for a small designer in Soho, $200 for 4 hours. I cried on the subway ride home. The work came slow at first. Catalog shoots, e-commerce, things nobody would ever see. But I was building a portfolio, making connections, learning how to move, how to stand, how to let go of the voice in my head that still sounded like my mother saying, "Maybe if you just tried harder." What I didn't tell anyone was that Blaire had tried this same path 3 years earlier. I found out by accident, scrolling through an old thread on a modeling forum. Someone had posted about wannabe influencers who think they can model. And there was Blaire's name. Screenshots of her getting rejected from IMG, from Wilhelmina, from Ford. Too commercial. Not enough edge. Pretty face, but nothing special. The agencies that rejected her were the same ones booking me now. I didn't feel good about it exactly, but I didn't feel bad either. My family still had no idea what I was doing. As far as they knew, I was waiting tables and wasting my potential in New York. My mother's texts had gone from weekly to monthly to almost never. Fine by me. I was building something they'd never understand, and I was doing it without them. The email came on a Thursday morning in October. I was eating cereal standing up in my tiny kitchen, still half asleep, when my agent called. "Sit down," Monica said. "I don't have anywhere to sit." True. I'd sold my one chair at a stoop sale. Then hold on to something. Elle wants you for their December cover. I dropped the cereal bowl. Milk splattered across the floor. Elle magazine. Not a small editorial buried on page 90. Not a beauty page or a supplement. The cover. The actual cover. They're doing a whole issue on redefining beauty standards. Monica continued, talking fast the way she did when she was excited. Real skin, real stories, no retouching scars or texture. They saw your portfolio and they want you to lead it. There'll be an interview component. They want to talk about your journey, your skin, all of it. My hands were shaking. When? Shoots in 2 weeks. And Kayla? The fee is $15,000. I had to sit down after all. Just dropped right onto the floor. $15,000. I was still splitting dollar pizza slices into 2 meals. The shoot was in a studio in Chelsea, the kind with 20-foot ceilings and light that poured in like honey. The team was 12 people deep. Hair, makeup, styling, assistants, the photographer who'd shot actual celebrities, and a journalist who sat in the corner with a recorder. They did my makeup different than I'd ever seen. Instead of covering everything, they enhanced. A light foundation that let my skin show through. They didn't hide my scars. They caught the light on them, made them part of the story my face was telling. "You have such incredible texture," the makeup artist said, like it was a compliment. I'd spent years trying to erase that texture. The clothes were nothing like I'd worn before. High fashion, architectural, the kind of pieces that cost more than a month's rent. A white sculptural dress that made me look like I was made of light. A black suit so sharp it could cut. The photographer Sarah kept saying, "Yes, that. Exactly that," while I stood there wondering what I was doing right. Between setups, the journalist asked me questions. "Tell me about your relationship with your skin." I told her about the acne, about the years of trying to fix something everyone treated like a moral failing, about being hidden from photos and left out of family events, about learning to disappear. I didn't mention my family by name. Didn't have to. She understood. "And now?" she asked. "Now I'm here," I said. "Scars and all." She smiled. "That's the whole point, isn't it?" They showed me the photos at the end of the day. Me on a white backdrop, head tilted back, eyes closed, light catching every line and mark and imperfection on my face. Me laughing in the black suit, looking powerful in a way I'd never seen myself look. Me serious and soft and strong all at once. I didn't recognize myself, but also, I did. This was who I'd been becoming in the silence. In the year and a half away from people who told me I wasn't enough, this person had been growing in the dark like something waiting for the right conditions to break through soil. "These are beautiful," Sarah said quietly. "You're going to change things for a lot of people." I cried in the subway on the way home. Not sad crying, the other kind. The magazine came out the first week of December. Monica messaged me a photo of the newsstands in Times Square. My face, 4 feet tall, repeated across a wall of magazines. I stood in front of one at the bodega near my apartment for 10 minutes. The owner, Ahmed, came out and stood next to me. "That's you," he said. "Yeah. I always knew you were somebody." I bought 3 copies. One for me, one for my grandmother, and one I had different plans for. I called Vivian that night. "Grandmère, Are you going to the Christmas party this year? Of course, Sherry. Why? I'm coming home, I said. And I'm bringing a present. She was quiet for a moment. Then, in that knowing way she had, oh, this will be good. It will be honest, I said. Even better. I wrapped that third magazine in silver paper with a white bow, packed it carefully in my carry-on, booked a flight to Orange County for December 23rd. I'd spent 18 years being the daughter they were ashamed of. It was time they met the woman I'd become in spite of them. We are seconds away from walking back into that house in Newport Beach. But before we reveal the look on her mother's face, let's send some love to the girl Kayla used to be. Give this video a like if you believe that true beauty isn't something you're born with, but something you build through grace and courage. Your likes help this story reach other women who might be feeling invisible right now. Now, let's head to the party. The house looked exactly the same. White columns, perfectly trimmed hedges, Christmas lights that probably cost more than my flight. I sat in the Uber for a full minute after it pulled up, just breathing. My grandmother was waiting on the porch. She'd flown in 2 days earlier, told my parents I was coming, but didn't tell them why. She looked at the silver-wrapped package in my hands and smiled. Ready, Sherry? I think so. Good. I will enjoy watching this very much. The party was already in full swing. The living room was packed with people I half recognized. Neighbors, my parents' country club friends, some of Blaire's influencer circle, relatives who'd crossed me off their mental guest lists years ago. Everyone dressed like they were auditioning for a holiday catalog. I'd worn simple black, jeans, a silk top, minimal makeup. I didn't need to perform anymore. My mother saw me first. She was holding court near the fireplace, wine glass in hand, mid-story about something. Her eyes passed over me, then snapped back. The smile on her face froze. Kayla. She said my name like she was trying to remember if she'd locked the car. Hi, Mom. Merry Christmas. People turned. The conversations dimmed slightly. That ripple effect when something interesting enters a room. My father appeared from the kitchen. Well, look who decided to show up. Not, we missed you. Not glad you're here. Just that. Blaire came down the stairs in a cream-colored dress that probably photographed beautifully. She stopped 3 steps from the bottom when she saw me. Her expression did something complicated. Oh my God, Kayla. She came down the rest of the way, arms out for a hug that felt like a performance. It's been forever. You look different. Clean living, I said. She pulled back, studied my face. Your skin cleared up. Finally. There it was. 40 seconds in and already a barb wrapped in observation. My mother had recovered herself. Well, come in, come in. Can I get you something to drink? We weren't sure you'd actually come. You're so busy in New York doing... What is it you do again? I work, I said simply. The party continued around us. I was introduced to people who didn't remember me, reminded of connections I'd never had. Blaire's fiancé, a guy named Preston who worked in his father's real estate firm. My mother's new best friend from Pilates, a photographer Blaire was collaborating with. I smiled, nodded, held my wrapped magazine like a shield. Blaire was talking about her engagement party, planned for March, when my mother interrupted. We're thinking of having it at the club. Blaire's followers will love the ocean backdrop, and we can... Remember when we used to hide Kayla during parties? Blaire said suddenly, laughing like it was a fond memory. Because of her skin? The group went quiet. Awkward quiet. Blaire, my father said, but he was smiling slightly. What? I'm just saying, it's so nice that she grew out of that phase. Blaire looked at me, eyes sharp under the sweetness. You must be so relieved. I can't imagine how hard that must have been, looking like that all through high school. Other people were watching now. This was the show they'd come for, even if they didn't know it yet. Remember senior prom? Blaire continued. You didn't even go because you told everyone I had a contagious rash. I finished calmly. Blaire's smile tightened. I was joking. Were you? My mother set her wine glass down. Girls, it's Christmas. Let's not what? I asked, Talk about how you used to crop me out of family photos, how Dad told his golf buddies he only had one daughter, how you literally forgot my 18th birthday. The room had gone completely silent now. Kayla, you're being dramatic, my mother said, her voice tight. We always supported you. You hid me. We protected you, my father said. You were going through a difficult time. We didn't want you to be embarrassed. You were embarrassed, I corrected. Of me. Blaire laughed, sharp and nervous. Oh my God, are we really doing this? You moved to New York and disappeared for 2 years. We're supposed to feel guilty because you were sensitive about some acne? Some acne, I repeated. I mean, look at you now. Blaire gestured at me. You're fine, normal. It all worked out. So why are you being bitter about ancient history? This was the moment. I walked to where my mother stood and held out the silver-wrapped package. I brought you a Christmas gift, Mom. I think you should open it. Right now. In front of everyone. My mother looked at the package like it might explode. Kayla, I don't think... Open it. The room was holding its breath. Her hands shook slightly as she took it. The paper crinkled loud in the silence. She peeled back the silver wrapping slowly, revealing the magazine underneath. December's Elle magazine, my face staring back at her from the cover. Her champagne glass hit the floor and shattered into 1,000 pieces. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. And for the first time in my entire life, everyone in that room was looking at me. The silence lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. My mother just stood there, the magazine in her trembling hands, staring at my face on the cover like it was written in a language she didn't understand. My father moved closer, looked over her shoulder, and his face went pale. Is that... he started. Elle magazine, I said clearly. December issue, the one about redefining beauty standards. They flew me to New York for the shoot, paid me $15,000. There's a 6-page spread inside, and an interview where I talk about overcoming a difficult relationship with my appearance. Blaire snatched the magazine from my mother's hands. I watched her flip through it, her face getting redder with each page. The photos of me in high fashion, the quotes about learning to love my scars, the paragraph about being told I was ugly by the people who should have loved me most. This is photoshopped, Blaire said loudly. This is not real. There's no way. There's a QR code on page 43, I said. Links to the behind-the-scenes video on Elle's website. 17 million views so far. Someone in the crowd pulled out their phone. Then another person. Then 5 more. Oh my God, one of my mother's friends whispered. It really is her. My mother found her voice. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? That I got a job? You never asked what I was doing in New York. You never called to check if I was alive. You sent me a text on my birthday. One text. We thought you were waitressing, my father said weakly. I was. I also became a model. Turns out the face you were ashamed of is exactly what the fashion industry was looking for. Blaire was scrolling through her phone now, frantic. You have an Instagram. You have 200,000 followers. How did I not know about this? I blocked you, I said simply. Blocked all of you. I didn't want you finding out until I was ready to tell you. This is unbelievable, Blaire said, and she wasn't even trying to hide the venom now. You show up here after 2 years and ambush us with this? On Christmas? You were just making fun of my skin 30 seconds ago, in front of all these people, like you've done my entire life. That was a joke. It wasn't funny. My grandmother appeared at my elbow then, her presence solid and calm. I think Kayla has been very patient, actually. Very gracious to even come home at all. Mother, my father started. Anthony, be quiet, Vivian said sharply. You've said enough for one lifetime. I looked around the room, at all the faces watching. Some looked shocked. Some looked uncomfortable. A few looked almost pleased, like they'd always suspected my parents weren't as perfect as they pretended. I'm going to go now, I said. I just wanted you to see what I became without you. Despite you. I turned to leave. My grandmother followed. That's when my mother started crying. Not quiet tears, full sobs. Kayla, wait. Please, I'm sorry. We didn't know. We didn't understand. You didn't try to understand, I said without turning around. There's a difference. I walked out. The cold December air hit my face like a reset button. Grandmother Vivienne drove me to her house. We didn't talk. She just made tea and let me sit in her living room, my hands still shaking from adrenaline. That was very brave, Shiri, she said finally. It was mean, I said. It was honest. There's a difference. I flew back to New York the next morning, and that's when things got nuclear. Blaire's first Instagram post went up at 6 p.m. on Christmas Day. A carefully crafted caption about family drama, and people who use trauma for attention, and the modeling industry's obsession with sob stories. She didn't name me directly. She didn't have to. Her followers understood immediately. The comments poured in. Is this about your sister? Wait, your sister is a model now? Didn't you try modeling and get rejected, Lowell? That last comment had 3,000 likes. Blaire deleted the post 2 hours later, but screenshots live forever. Then she made her second mistake. She posted a throwback photo. Me at 15, face broken out, looking miserable at some family event. Caption: everyone has awkward phases. Some of us just don't use them for magazine interviews. Real talk. Family first. The internet is a beautiful thing sometimes. Within 6 hours, people had found my Elle interview, had read the quotes about being hidden from family photos and called ugly by the people who should have protected me, had found Blaire's old posts about being blessed with good genes while I was still living at home. The comments on Blaire's post turned vicious. You're literally bullying your sister right now. This is disgusting. She's on the cover of Elle and you're posting her childhood photos to mock her? The jealousy is so obvious. By the next morning, Blaire had lost 15,000 followers. Her engagement rate tanked. Brands started quietly pulling out of partnerships. A boutique in Newport canceled a sponsored post deal. Then my parents made it worse. They gave an interview to a local Orange County lifestyle blog, talking about how I'd always been troubled and struggled with mental health issues, and how the modeling industry was exploiting vulnerable young women. They brought up my eating disorder, the one I'd developed because of them, the one I'd never told anyone about except my therapist and my grandmother. They weaponized my pain to protect their reputation. The article went up on January 3rd. It backfired within hours. Someone leaked screenshots of my mother's old Facebook posts, the ones where she only ever mentioned Blaire, the family photos where I was conspicuously absent, comments she'd made on Blaire's posts about good genes while I was still living under her roof. A former neighbor commented on the article. I watched this family treat their daughter like she was invisible for years. This isn't journalism, it's reputation management. Then, the fashion industry responded. 3 major brands reached out to my agent that week. A skincare company wanted me as the face of their new Real Skin campaign. 6-figure contract. A fashion house in Paris wanted me for their spring show. Another magazine requested an interview. The message was clear. They were betting on me, not my family's version of events. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Interview requests, podcast invitations, women messaging me saying, "Thank you for telling your story." I turned most of it down, but I accepted the skincare campaign. The announcement went live on January 15th. My face on a billboard in Times Square. The campaign tagline, "Beautiful isn't perfect, it's real." Blaire lost another 20,000 followers that day. My parents stopped giving interviews, and from 3,000 miles away, I watched everything they'd built crumble. Not because I destroyed it, but because they'd built it on a foundation of lies, and the truth has a way of bringing those structures down. It's been 14 months since that Christmas party. I'm 21 now, sitting in my apartment in the West Village. Not the basement in Brooklyn anymore. A real apartment with windows that let in actual sunlight, and a kitchen where I can cook meals that aren't ramen. The skincare campaign ran for 6 months. The billboards came down in July, but the residuals still come in. I've done 2 more magazine covers, walked in Paris Fashion Week, and signed with a major agency in London. My calendar is booked through next spring. But the best part isn't the money or the recognition or even the vindication. It's the peace. I don't wake up anymore bracing for criticism. Don't check my phone expecting messages that make me feel small. Don't look in the mirror and see something that needs apologizing for. I just see me, scars and all. And I like her. My grandmother visits once a month. She stays in my guest room, and we walk through Central Park and eat pastries at the French bakery near Washington Square. She tells me stories about Paris in the 60s, and never once mentions my parents unless I ask. Sometimes I do ask. Your mother went back to therapy, Vivienne told me last month. Your father sold the dealership. They're moving to Arizona, somewhere smaller, quieter. And Blaire? She deleted Instagram, got a job at a marketing firm. Normal work, no more performing. I nodded. Didn't feel triumphant. Didn't feel guilty either. Just neutral, like hearing about strangers whose story happened to intersect with mine once. She asked about you, Vivienne added carefully. Wanted to know if you were happy. What did you tell her? That you were, and that it was none of her business. I smiled. I don't hate them anymore. That's what people don't understand about walking away from family. It's not about hate. Hate still ties you to people. It's about indifference. It's about realizing that their opinions don't get to live in your head anymore, don't get to narrate your worth, don't get to write the story of who you are. I wrote my own story instead. Last week, a girl messaged me on Instagram, 17 years old, struggling with cystic acne, parents who don't understand, classmates who are cruel. She said seeing my interview made her feel less alone, said she's saving money to leave her small town when she turns 18. I wrote back, told her what I wish someone had told me at 17, that the people who make you feel small are usually trying to make themselves feel big, that getting away isn't running away, that the face you have right now is not the enemy, that you're already enough, even if nobody's bothered to notice yet. She wrote back, thank you. I'm going to keep going. So am I. I don't know if my family will ever really change. If my mother will ever actually apologize without qualifiers. If my father will ever admit what he allowed to happen. If Blaire will ever see me as something other than a threat, or a mistake, or a reminder of her own limitations. It doesn't matter anymore, because I changed. I became the person they tried to convince me I could never be. Not in spite of my scars, but with them. Not by becoming perfect, but by becoming real. The girl they called ugly is on magazine covers now. The girl they hid from photos is being photographed by people who actually see her. The girl they tried to shrink is taking up space unapologetically. And the girl who used to believe them when they said she wasn't enough, she doesn't live here anymore. If this story resonated with you, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. That girl in your life who doesn't know her own worth yet. That woman who's still trying to earn love from people who will never give it freely. That person who thinks their scars make them less than. Tell them they're wrong. Tell them they're already enough. And tell them that walking away from people who can't see your value isn't giving up. It's the moment you finally start choosing yourself. That's where real beauty begins.